Macho John Madden, Juanito in Mexico. I just did the longest video about my identity as a lover. And I want to do one now about my identity as a risk taker. A little background of El Diamante. Tiny 400-person pueblo, ironically, sits on the main carretera along the east coast of Mexico and gets a lot of truck traffic. Nobody here notices it. It's just part of the water in which they swim. To me, it's a huge noise pollution in an otherwise very quiet place. So what got me thinking about me as a risk taker is watching a motorcyclist come down here. And he avoided that speed bump altogether. He just went over on the gravel and never slowed down. Shortly after my divorce, I was attending a personal growth workshop at the New England Center in Amherst, Massachusetts, run by Jack Canfield of the Chicken Soup for the Souls books fame. At that point, he was a kind of a hippie guitar-playing Gestalt therapist who also ran a personal growth center. And I had an infatuation during that workshop with a woman who was not super pretty, but really cool and sexy. And our sexual energy got charged by playing tennis. We were both good tennis players, and we'd go hit the courts during the lunch break every day. And man, we loved stroking together. We never had any physical involvement until the last day, right after the workshop ended. There was a little phone booth in the center, and we made out in that phone booth for about an hour. But earlier in the week, one night we got high. And while we were high, she said, "Madden, you are like a motorcycle, all risk and speed and danger." Partly referring to the way my mind works, which is super fast. And the risks I take interpersonally and with my humor. I love that part of me. When the COVID hit and people would routinely take leave of you by saying, "Be careful," I'd say, "No, it doesn't work for me." In the same way that famously people say, "No chaos, no creation," I say, "No risk, no aliveness." You have to take risks. If you stay in your comfort zone, you die. And that's what happens in lots of monogamous marriages. Not all by any means. Tom and Lee and Dennis are great examples where that's not true. But take appropriate risks. And I've gotten better over time at staying more grounded, because being spacey or ungrounded is my shadow side. So I'm getting better at saying what are the smart risks to take, or sensing. Even when I don't think about it a long time, if God says, "Do it," jump. I was camping at a little camp north of Asheville that first year. There was a steep bank down to a wonderful little creek. And I was standing at the side of the bank and said, "Shit, how do I get down there?" And I heard God's voice say, "Easy. Fall forward and grab that tree down there." What? Do it. I did it. I was halfway down. I saw a little beach, the side of the creek. And the voice said, "Jump down there. That's 15 feet. Do it now." I jumped and planted it. So when God says, "Take that hill," I'm going to do it, even if it doesn't. I don't do a lot of research. I don't consult with AI about the risks. No, I do it. But I try to avoid doing that just to show off or to be macho, to show that I'm a cowboy, which I left that identity out. That's a big one that came alive on the road. Robert Earl Keen, music of Corpus Christi. He's my cowboy side. But I try to be smart. Now, is Lenin smart on my part? I think so. I keep consulting. I keep going back to the quiet. And here I'm going back to the quiet more than I have in a long time, maybe ever. Yeah, okay. So God's voice, when I fell in love with Nancy Duffy back in Asheville, in Syracuse, New York, I kept asking God, and God kept saying, keep going, keep going. When the whole relationship blew up completely because I just casually mentioned, wow, you're 7 years older than me. Well, she was a TV news personality. Youth was awfully important, and she was already showing the signs of past her prime for TV. So that relationship was over just by me mentioning that. I said, God, you kept telling me to keep going. Yeah, I didn't say it was going to work. I just said you should keep going. Okay.